My name is Meredith Loomis Quinlan. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I work with an organization called Michigan United, which is statewide across the state of Michigan. And I'm here today because about a year ago we launched a gender equity program in Michigan to really elevate women's leadership in our state and in our organization. And as part of that, we made a collective decision to start working on access to affordable quality childcare in Michigan. And so I'm here because I'm just excited to be a part of a national cohort that is thinking about how we can go back to our cities and states and run really cutting edge campaigns and also connect and weave together our work. So we are building something bigger and really pushing for a national solution, which I think we will really need to start working toward to really fix a lot of the problems in our states and cities, particular to funding.
Great, and so tell me more about what some of the problems are and the main challenges that you see in childcare.
Sure. So I think that one of the things that is probably most frustrating is that we have all this research that shows, the first 3-4 years of life are so important in the development of our young people and how their brains are developing and emotional, social skills. And we have all of this great data that's saying we really need to be making investments in these first couple of years of life. Except that in Michigan, at least, we're living in this political ideology that wants to cut programs, that values sort of money and profit over people. And so what we're seeing happening is these essential services being slashed. And in childcare is this interesting nexus of it's education, it's support for working parents, and it's also, this interesting place of workers' rights where a bunch of the childcare workers are women in our state. And it seems like it's such common sense to make big investments and say we're going to go big on early education and childcare because we know this matters. But we're seeing, like we do with many other campaigns, where the facts are ignored in place of politics that are really hurtful to our families.
Great, and so what do you think is the most important thing to take back from this weekend?
So the most important thing, that's hard because I think there's going to be a lot of important things. I think when I think about going back to Michigan, our campaign is pretty young. And there are people who are here with us in Santa Fe, as well as across the country, who've been in this fight for decades, in this fight for childcare and early childhood education. And I think for me, learning from what they've done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, is such an important part of this organizing. And I'm just really excited to take that wisdom that's in the room and bring it back to Michigan.
Great. And if you were someone who didn't know anything about childcare, how would you characterize what you're fighting for?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's simple, but we're fighting for families. It is so obvious to us that when we're on the ground and organizing in our communities, as an organizer, we're out doing so many one-to-ones per week, per month, per year, where we're having this huge scale of conversation with people in our communities. And when doing that, it comes up so frequently that parents were shocked the first time they looked into how expensive childcare is. And so many stories of people trying to access the system who should be eligible and just running into barriers when all that they want is to either go to school or be able to work and provide for their families. And we make it so difficult. And there's a level of frustration across our community that issues like this shouldn't be such a problem. We shouldn't have these huge barriers when we know the best solutions to dealing with them. So I think, when I talk to people for the first time about childcare, sometimes I just we'll drop the number of, infant care in Michigan is around $10,000 a year. And that's, more than some people are paying in rent. It's an enormous part of people's budgets. And I think at the end of the day, we have to make some decisions about what we prioritize. And Is it our children? Is it our families? Or is it other things like corporate tax breaks, which seems to be like what we're looking at in Michigan. So I think that when we break it down, so many people have felt or experienced these issues or know a set of parents who are dealing with difficult decisions that it's actually not so hard to bring people into it because everyone's touched somehow by this issue.
Great. And let me just have you say one more time the last bit that everyone's touched.
Yeah. So, I think it's pretty clear to us that everyone is touched in some way by this issue.